So we're coming back to our story again. Story of the king and the emperor. It's a crazy story. So originally that we had the king and an emperor, they didn't have children, so they made a pact together if they have children and the children are going to get married. One thing or another, though it doesn't work out. And they long for each other, but they can't make their way back together again. And they get separated. They get separated for the fact that they're looking for the pact that brought them together, and they get separated. And then she gets captured that is the daughter of the emperor. She gets captured first by the son of a merchant, and then she's about by a king, and then they're confronted by pirates, and she changes her clothing, and they go through all different kinds of things, and she's had these 11 girls along with her, and between them they run into some pirates, and there's 12 pirates, and the pirates and they, but each time that she gets into trouble, she finds some way to use some kind of wine that's very precious, that is able to knock everybody out, and she steals the boat, and she goes on her way until she gets to the last part over here, where there is a king who abandons his throne in terms of his son. And the son is out there partying. He's decided to go out on the ocean. He's going to go on a voyage. He's going to have a really good time. And he starts orgying around. And in the meantime, her boat, she's on a boat, and her boat gets close to his boat. And as a result of that, she's not sure she wants to get close, but she does. And as she's looking at there, she sees that he climbed up on top of the mast, and she takes some kind of a looking glass or a mirror effect, and she's able to shine it on him, burn his brain. He falls into the sea, which she's told just specifically that he should fall into the sea. And as he falls into the sea, of course, he's dead. And now they bring him out. And her boat comes over to the other boat, and they asked her, she says to them, you know what, it's a burnt brain. As a result of that, they said, well, this woman they think it's a man because she's dressed like a sailor. This person must be a doctor, a great doctor. So they think this is a really great person because he's unable, as they open up the son of the king's head, they're able to see that in fact he does have a brain which is burned. So therefore they think, wow, this person is really fantastic person, and they think, well, it would be a good idea if he married the queen. Of course, she's actually a girl. She's the daughter of the emperor. Now, in the meantime, they go back to the palace, and they're going to have a big wedding. That is the daughter of the of the emperor with the queen of the man whose father left the throne, gave it to his son, and then had his brain burnt by this glass, reflective glass in some way, and now there's going to be a big chasana. So what did we see the last time? So the last time is that they're all there, and they're making a big party, and she says that, look, I want you to you have to put out wells or drinking fountains all over the country. We're going to invite the whole world to come to this, but I want drinking fountains. I want people to stand by the drinking fountains, and I want you to see if there's anybody, put my picture there. If there's anybody that spends a lot of time looking at my pictures and then looks sad. So they found 3 people that did that. And so they said that those people, we want you to capture them, and we want you to bring them back to the palace, and that is where our story is right now. So the story we're just reading the simple story, and later we're going to put the story in context and to see what actually this story is talking about. So it's B'shas Chasana Tzivach HaMelech. So at the time the wedding is coming on, and the big parties that are leading up to the wedding, and they're going on. Shiyavu HaShavuyim Lefanav. So these 3 men, they captured 3 men. Bring the 3 men to her. So to him, which is actually her. So then the 3 are brought. She recognizes the 3 of them. It sounds like Yosef and the brothers a little bit. They don't recognize her because she's wearing men's clothing. Ansa Bas Kesef Amno. So then the Bas Kesef, that is the daughter of the emperor, she answers to them and she starts to speak to them. She says like this. Ata Melech. She points to one of them and says, you are a king. This is the king that removed her. This is one of the 3 captured men that then now been captured. Now you were kicked out of your kingdom, and there was a revolution there because you had allowed the 11 daughters of the of the princes of your country to be taken away. As a result of that, you lost your kingdom. So here, and she brings out the 11 girls, and now here they are. Shuv l'malchuscha. Go back to your country, go back to your kingdom. So he says, because the Rav Shik writes on the side that the 11 girls were there with her on the boat all along. Now she points to another one of the three, so there's only two left. And she points to the other one and she says, Ata Socher, you are the merchant. That is, he actually was the son of the merchant. And Akshav Chizrach Bepanecha, she starts to speak with him. Oscha Gerish Avicha, so your father kicked you out. Bishvil Hasvina Imeschara, because you had such a tremendous wealth that you had made so much money on your boat. But in the meantime, you had kicked out because the boat was stolen, which she was the one that stole it. That was lost from you. Hare Luchacha Svina, here you see, now we have the boat here. She takes them and she shows them, look, there's your boat out there. Shalucha, your boat. Im kala schera, that has all of the merchandise, all of the wealth that you had achieved. And because the money was sitting and it wasn't used for so long, it accrued interest. So therefore there's a tremendous wealth in that boat. But Kifle Kaflayim doubled and quadrupled Mimashahoya from what there was. And then she comes and she looks at the third one, the last one left. Ba'ata ben Melech, you in fact are the son of the king. That is her fiancé, the man that she's betrothed to. Nelcha benisa, let's go, she says, let's travel. B'shavel the Beisam, they went back to their home, and then the story ends. Baruch Hashem la'olam Hashem, may he be blessed forever. Amen v'amen. That's the whole story. It's a great story, right? What could this story possibly be talking about? So now we have a few minutes, and let's see how much of the story we can interpret. I'm going to do the best I can to try to stick with what Rav Shik says. So the first part of the story says that there was a story about an emperor. He had no children. And then there was a king, also had no children. And so they all traveled. They were looking for medical advice. And they were all over the world. They traveled all over. And one place, they ran into each other. So then what happened is, let me go on. They didn't recognize each other, but they noticed that each of them had a regal bearing. They were aristocratic people. So they began to talk, and they built up a conversation. They decided if we're lucky enough to have children, because they're down, these two are very, very down. If we're lucky enough to have children, then you and I will take our children if you have a boy and I have a girl, and vice versa. He says, we'll make a pact right now, and they'll get married. So let's see what Rav Shik says about this. Maisa beKeser Echad, there's a story about a certain emperor. So this is the word Keser. If you count up the words of Kuf, Yud, Samach, and Resh. Samach Resh is 260, and then you have another 10, which is 270, and another 100 makes 370. Ola Kamisper Shin Ayin. Now Shin Ayin is a Kabbalistic number called 370. Nehorin Shel Erik Anpin. So what is it? As if it's possible, so we don't know. I'll tell you, so you won't know what I'm saying necessarily. But if you took the name Kale, and you took the name Kale, let's imagine that Erik Anpin, is it possible to say, has a face. And on each side of the face of Erik Anpin are two names of Kale. Kale is a name of kindness. And Kale is spelled Aleph Lamed Fe, Lamed Mem Dalet. If you add up those numbers, they come out to be 185. The one on the right was 185 on the right and 185 on the left. These represents lights. They are not physical in any way whatsoever. They remembers lights that are coming off of the face of the most interior parts of that we understand, which all covers the entire Atzilus, which is called Erik Anpin. So he says that this Sholo Hoyu Lo Bonim, he had no children. What are we talking about? We're talking about the 370 lights. Erik Anpin, the glow from the inside. Because these still had not developed downward in such a way that there should be a creation. There was also a certain king. So this is the Malchus of Atzilus. Before it came down, it was spread out into lower worlds. There were also no children developed. Because the Mochin, which is the power of the essence of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, is still not revealed. So let's try to understand this a little bit more. Eric Anpin, in all of Kabbalah, there is a male-female concept. It's Eric Anpin and his female part. There's Abba, there's an Ima, there's all Zer Anpin, he has his Nuk, so on and so forth. All of the concepts are always male and female. Male means that which gives. Female means that which receives. So that's always the concept that you have. And the most important thing is to be able to give in order to be able to reproduce. Because if Eric Anpin is not able to give to his female counterpart, nothing else will happen. So this is basically what it's talking about. It's talking about there's a situation where there's a melech, which is, he says over here, the way he's saying it, is as it refers to Malchus, because Malchus goes with the Melech, which is another word calling the Nuk of the female aspect of Eric Anpin, that these two are independent and they're not reproducing. The Nasa HaKeser, so they said, Gam came lo koy lobanim, so that the Malchus, they didn't reproduce. Now, who does the reproduction? Well, it's a two-part process. This is that the male aspect gives to the female aspect, and the female aspect then does the reproducing. The Nasa HaKeser, so the Keser then travels. Yispashtus Hashin Hayin Norin, that he means that the lights started to move. Ala Aretz Ashote the Vakesh Ula Yamatza Eze Eze Trufa Laholech Banim. So they start meeting. There's some intercourse that takes place between the male part and the female part in order that they should have the ability to be able to reproduce. So that you have a chain reaction of meetings of, these are called Yehudim. In the study of Kabbalah, what you see is that the study of Kabbalah is different than the study of Dinim, which are the Talmud and so on and so forth, to try to arrive exactly. It's like the Dinim are like a constant paring down and splitting to get to the kernel of the truth in something. In the Kabbalah, we're taking the kernels of truth, and we're uniting them. As a result of uniting them, it's called a Yichud. So as uniting them, we're bringing up to a higher place. As a result of that, we're bringing the possibility of creating bracha, or sweetness. That's what we talk about. Until all of the creation would be developed out. Kula b'chamisha partzufim, and now we saw it like we talked a little bit. Those of you who are in the Sod class, this is that you see that this, until the 5 partzufim that we call Eric Anpin, Abba Ve'ima, and Zachar V'Nuk, or Za and Malchus. So until those start to develop. Gama Melech, Shucha Malchus, Shuchutzchu the Hashlim Atzpa, so she also has to be built up. She has to be built up as well. Nasa Kamo Kain, so they're all traveling out to try to develop, that is, the Eibishter is really pushing this, to try to make it possible for Olamos to be developed. Malchus Mekabelas Mikol Olam Ba'olam. Let's understand Malchus of what it is. Malchus is the bottom of all Sephiros. Now, there are basically 5 Sephiros. Those 5 Sephiros, that is, of the body, of the lower part. There are actually 10 Sephiros. There are 3 Sephiros of the head, which are called the Gar. That's usually Chochmah, Bina, and Das. Sometimes we say Keser, but Keser is really not part of any particular parts of. It's part of the parts of above it. But anyway, we're not going to go to that right now. So we have Chochmah, Bina, Das, and Chochmah, Bina, Das are the Gar. They're called the Gimel Rishonim. And then you have another section. That's the section of the body. The body has 5 parts. So that's 5 and 3 is 8. Well, 5 parts are Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, Netzach, and Hod. So as we're going now, we're in the week of Hod and Sphira. It's related to this. So then what happened to Yesod and Malchus? Because Yesod is called a kolel. In other words, like a pool. And everything that happened in Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, Netzach, and Hod winds up pooling itself into Yesod. Then Yesod also pulls itself into Malchus. And that is the basis a basic structure of a flow chart of light. But this damno shneichen the pundek echod. So now they meet. They meet at the place of wedding. Akaviyachal Kodesh Baruch Hu bebrias olamos morid or derech shin ayin olamos. So he says like this, as if it's possible to say. And again, I haven't said this enough, and I have to say that these things are all very metaphoric. Nonetheless, they have a kernel of what we can use, and the Rav says that we could use these words and these ideas to try to understand the process of how the world is created and how bracha is generated. So olamos morid or derech shin ayin olamos. So we described the concept of the 370 universes. So the lights are generated, and Malchus comes along, and she's able to receive them. They didn't know each other. That's what the Rav says. So as they began to develop into creation, to create something, we still don't see where it's going. Because it's such a panimi, such an interior place. It's so far away, let's say, from here. It's so far away. It's so far untouchable by us. So the Keser then looked and he saw his opposite. Sheyesh lo nimos, she had a certain bearing. Ki shin ayin neharim neirim be'or gadol ma'od, because he said the 370 lights, which contain an Eric Anpin in the male aspect of Eric Anpin, until the end they come down. Eventually they shine so much that they find the other side. Now, it's a little vague, but that's basically what it says. The shal also, he asked him, that is the king asked the emperor, and so he said it the other way around. It's the emperor that asked the king, and he admitted to him. He says, "I'm a king." So the melech also saw something special. And what is it? Because actually they're related. This is the female aspect of the male. So they look at each other and they say, "Look, we belong together." But he also agreed. Because when there is a yichud, again, this word yichud, really big idea, is that they join, they make a wedding, because all brachos come from joining things, from uniting things. Because all of the universes, they all depend on each other. They're all hanging together. They're all working together, because actually all of them are really one. So they're using hodia lahem as a lashon das. So that between, let's say you had a right side and you had a left side, and then there has to be some kernel that unites them. That's the knowledge that they have between them, which is called das. And they both join together. So if they therefore came home, and let's say, just for example, that we give birth to both male and female, so what are we talking about? A lower level where we're actually going is in order to fill up the bottom of Atzilus with these two lower partsufim, which are called Zer Anpin and his female counterpart. So that then we'll make a yichud between them, which is called a zivug, that we'll have an exchange and be able to get into reproduction mode. So we will in fact do that. We'll make them marry in Kedusha. But Nasa HaKesa, the base of a holy bat. So then it happened that the emperor went back, he gave birth to a girl. Ki Mishin Ayin Naharim de Eric Anpin. When we talk about the lights that are flowing out of Eric Anpin and all that tremendous bracha that is coming from him, eventually it will revive, will arrive at Malchus. V'hamelech nasa the base of a hulik bain. So then the melech, the king, he went back to his house and he gave birth to a son. Shu Zer Anpin, again Zer Anpin. So one is a development. We're saying the Eric Anpin. This is not sure that I understand it 100%, but the Zer Anpin leads to the development of a Malchus. That is actually the production, really the way that it is really production of meeting the Malchus, which is his female counterpart. And they will together produce, the king will go and make a male aspect, and that male aspect of the lower world. His kashos are now nishkach mehem, but the fact is that the process doesn't work 100%, and they forget it. Shezeh b'shvil habechira v'chanisayin. So therefore, we understand is that when things come down and we have this tremendous amount of light which is constantly coming at us, and it's like you're in a rainstorm of bracha. There's rain and wonderful, wonderful things coming you all the time, but you're walking in the middle of it, and you just, because you don't want to look at it, you don't see it, or you don't know how to look at it. Somebody needs to teach you how to see where the bracha is in your life. HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'soch halamos, that he planted these brachos in the world. Shelo yihyu, that is, he gave us choice. We don't have to spend our time trying to find Hashem. We could really be going off into fantasy worlds. Because in the beginning, the way that Hashem made the world is that it started out, it was Eric Anpin and his Nook, they were one entity. But then as Eric Anpin and that which was in Eric Anpin started to develop out, what means to develop out? So those who you study the Sod class, you see that it becomes more physical. As it becomes more physical, then more choice gets involved in it. And as a result of that, then it gets further away from what it was originally doing. Maybe it should go here instead of there, like that. So that there should be a choice. Why this? So there should be a possibility for human beings to have a choice. And tests. So let's say that the ability to be able to reproduce was going to be permanent, and there would be no other thing other than reproduction, and constant, there would be neshamas chadashos and tzaddikim and constant goodness into the world. And everything then would return back, as we're about to see in the Sod class, that everything is going to come back to nothing, go back to the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, which is endless. There wouldn't be any worlds. If that was the case, there would be no choices. Because if you had a situation like this, that the zivug was continuous, and there would only be one, there would only be unity, constant, then it would be that you would have no choice, and that's the way it would be. This is a class for today. Next time we'll try to get into it more, and we'll try to see, as we go along, as we learn more and more Kabbalah, they'll be able to see exactly how this works. All the best.